welcome to another episode of the Destiny Truthcast. This is episode 33. I am Lost Souls, and this is our New Year's Day edition. And I'm here today with RedWingGirl, and as always, pleasure to have you here, RedWingGirl. How are you doing today?
I'm doing very well. How are you?
Doing well, thank you very much. Hope you're having a good New Year's.
Yeah, it's better than 2016, I'll have to say that much. I just really am glad that is behind us.
Onward and upward, right?
That's what they say.
Well, hopefully this is day one of another 364 good days after this. So we have three guests with us from the forums today. With us we have Optimus, Immortal, Pirate Patchy, and Cyberactive. How are you three doing today?
Yeah, good mate. Good to be here.
Yeah, it's good to be here too. Thanks for inviting me.
It's good to be here too. Happy New Year's to all. It's an honor to be here as well.
We're glad to have the three of you here with us today. So I want to have each of you tell the community just a little bit about yourselves. So we'll start with you, Optimus Immortal.
Thanks, Souls. Listen, I'm actually an Australian. People will get me confused with the United Kingdom. I've been playing Destiny since probably day 3. I can't say I'm a day 1 Guardian. Yeah, so I've been playing since then. I'm a plumber, I'm 30 years old, I have a wife and 2 beautiful children, and Destiny is a bit of my wind down time away from running my own business and coaching football, so good to be here.
Always really cool to have people from around the world here on the Truthcast. Day 3 Guardian still doesn't make you a Christmas noob, so you have that going for you.
Well, that's good to know.
And so the last episode we had on Ernacolite, who announced that he was in Central America, which turned out to be Illinois. But this week we have someone that is actually in Central America, Cyberactive 81. If you could tell us a little bit about yourself.
Hey guys, I'm 35 years old. I'm a safety training officer on an offshore installation. I'm also happily married and father of 1. My job forces me to be away from home and Destiny for 28 days, and then I come back home for 28 days. So usually I'm like really behind on most of the upscale things of what's going on in Destiny, so I kind of arrange between the forums and the game depending on where I'm at that time. My main character is a warlock, master race.
Flooper for life, huh?
Hell yeah.
And
Titan.
well, there's nothing wrong with the Titan, but RedWingGirl just refuses to see the beauty in the floop. So I keep trying to get her to come around and appreciate the floof, but it's we'll get there. We'll get there, right, RedWingGirl?
Yawn.
Yeah, the problem with Titans and Hunters, they never want to accept, but that's okay with us Warlocks. We're always willing to take a step back and let them enjoy their time.
And you are actually in Mexico joining us today.
That is correct. Forgot to mention that. My parents are Canadian, but I was born and raised in Mexico, so bicultural, and my daughter is also to be the same.
That is awesome. We have a definitely very global edition today. And our final guest, we have Pirate Patchy 243. How are you today, Pirate? And tell the community a little bit about yourself.
I'm doing good, thank you. I had a good Christmas, good New Year's, everything. I'm from Oregon, but I'm currently living in Texas. I was prior military, and it's the last place I was at, and I stayed, and I'm going to school for my airframe and power plant license. I'm Titan main, so you're not rolling RedWingGirl, and that's about all I got right now till it's my turn.
What Titan subclass do you play?
PvE, it's Bubble. PvP, it's Striker.
Right on. Lightning grenades for days?
Yeah, I do use those. I don't use Jug Shield, though. I still use Shoulder Charge.
Gotcha. One of them. Well, we have hopefully a very good program today. Lots to discuss. So the first thing I want to jump in with is I know that with the last update, there's been some new additions in the tower besides the snow and whatnot over by the gunsmith. There's the little machinery over there, Tex Mechanica, and I've kind of been thinking maybe it's a precursor to them bringing back some kind of reforge, who knows. But Optimus Immortal, I know you wanted to discuss a little bit about reforging.
Correct, mate. I do have a bit to go over, so I've sort of broken it down into little dot points for me. My main thing was, I think we've seen weapon reforging come and go, whether that's been a good thing or not. We did see its life cycle, but my main thing that I wanted to talk about was the possibility of armour reforging, seeing that there is so many various armour sets now to acquire in the game, and I think the RNG in the armour is now becoming a bit tedious, and like you talked about earlier, Souls, the Queen's Wrath as it is one thing that has been fixed through bounties, but the drop rate can be quite frustrating considering the amount of time you put in to complete those bounties. So so my thoughts were is bringing back reforging for armours only at this stage, and basically running a test going into the next phase of Destiny's life cycle, which would be Destiny 2. So I just had the idea of a lot of players don't know how to achieve tier 12, and even having stats and builds in their armour classes that suit both game types, PvP and PvE. So if we want to talk a bit about that, like my idea was to be able to re-roll to perfect your armour and feel and look the way you should feel and look after 3 years of playing. Any thoughts?
Well, I think it's a very good, especially as something to bring up for the developers as we're looking at Destiny 2 on the horizon. And I was discussing this a little bit with RedWingGirl earlier, because in year one, I was very much into, trying to get the armor pieces that gave me the scout rifle reload speed or the pulse rifle reload, if that was what I was using. In year two, I would try to get the armor buff that would give me extra armor with my striker using the arc class. But in year three, it's just so convoluted and so much gear that I've just said the hell with it. But I know RedWingGirl is very much into trying to set up her characters, and anyone that's listened to a podcast knows how much RedWingGirl loves collecting different armor sets and building her characters with different sets. And so RedWingGirl, just your thoughts on that, because that's something that you were very into, is trying to get that set up.
Well, the issue is that when you try to do sets, I mean, if you really want to get down to it, there's a couple of things that work for and against you, but most of it is against. So I'm trying to get the Queen's gear, but I want my Queen's gear to be able to do most of the things for pulse rifles, because that's what I use the most. But I use occasionally hand cannons and scouts, but I also use snipers, and I also use fusion rifles, and I also use swords, machine guns, and grenade launchers. So for me, or rocket launchers, for me it's like, and I also use all three of the classes, or the supers for all three of the classes, and depending on what I'm doing is what I want to do. The problem with having being a collector is that you're always at the mercy of what your loadout is going to be and how you're now going to wear your armor. And in most cases, you can't really wear the same outfit or, the collection of an outfit, because all of those pieces will likely never be what it is that you want to use, and that turns out to be true for raid gear or for the Iron Banner gear or anything else. So for me, looking forward, I would really like it so that you're able to just toggle through all of the options that you can put on your armor. You know those ornaments we were talking about earlier in previous shows, that it would be cool if you could have an ornament and you could just have like a vanilla gear, and then you could have an ornament that would change it to whatever type of gear that you wanted. It would be something similar like that. If I wanted to have Iron Banner set, I would have an Iron Banner ornament, or if I wanted a Queen set, I would have a Queen set ornament, or whatever the armor is that the ornament is for. But then further to that, have a place where, you know, when you're ranking things up and all those bubbles, you can actually have a selection where you can, you know, pick what type of armor that you want it to be, what type of, you know, gun perk you want it to have, you know, so that you can actually get to the tiers that you want on the armor that you like. And I mean, people will say that there will be God roll armors, but I'm not sure that's exactly true because everyone has a different play style. So that was kind of my idea going forward with armor, at least for me, because I just have way too much of it. Some of it I don't even use because it's just completely useless, but I like it because it's a part of a set, and I want to keep it, but I would love to be able to wear it when I'm actually playing something that's, you know, I need those perks for.
Yeah, see, I'd have to agree wholly with that. That is exactly where I'm coming from. You know, RedWing talked about the fact that you can't go into a game type now with a loadout unless you have multiple pieces of gear that might not even match. And that was one of the things why I wanted to bring up this topic. We are now in Year 3, and Year 2 and 3 combined, so we do have twice as many armour sets. But it's now at the point we have to gradually progress as a Guardian and feel like we are progressing. And I don't feel like progressing is changing or having to go to a PvP activity, for example, trying to achieve tier 11 or 12 and wearing completely different armour sets where you might not even have the same, a particular loadout like fast reload on pulse rifles or fast melee and super gained by grenade damage. You might not have that, and that might be your playstyle. So you're giving up tier 11 to go back a couple of steps on the other abilities that you might have gained. And it goes the same into PvE. It's one thing they don't focus on enough. When I go into a strike or a nightfall, why can't I have armour that matches my modifiers? Why can't I change it to feel like I've progressed and feel like I've got stronger? Because as it is, 400 light now, for the majority of players, that gap between 385 and 400 isn't much. So we need to be able to achieve something beyond that and feel that way in the way we look and how powerful our Guardian is.
So real quickly, Cyberactive, I know you wanted to jump in, but before you do, you keep bringing up the tier 12, and just for the players that aren't aware of what that is, would you like to explain real quickly, Optimus?
So basically, with your stats, intellect, discipline, and strength, okay, they all break down into your super energy, how fast that replenishes, your grenade, and your melee. Okay, so tier 12 is basically being able to run, so you have 5 increments on each stat, and you can only fill up 12 of those increments. So you might have, for instance, I'm a Sunbreaker Titan and I love sticky grenades, so I'll run 5 intellect, 5 discipline, and if I can, I try to achieve 2 on strength, but currently run 1 on strength. Because I'm not too fussed about getting too close. So I know that we have 2 X-arms anyway, so that's how your stats break down. You can run a 3-3-4 build, etc. It just depends on your play style. And that's something too I think they need to implement is 2 perk trees for stats isn't enough. I think they need 3. They need 3 on every set of gear. So you can change for whatever modifier, or if you have to change your play style during a PvP playlist to suit the game mode, you can change and you can wear what you want.
Well, it kind of goes back to what we were talking about in a previous podcast, if we could keep the gear, if vault space is an issue, we could keep the gear in kiosks, but then you would have the option to actually get a set and then apply all the perks that you want, but always be able to change those perks to however you want at whatever given time. But I don't think it should be, I understand the reward factor in terms of progressing to get to the highest tier, but it shouldn't be impossible. Like trying to get ornaments now, for example, on raid gear or trials gear is, it takes kind of great feat and a lot of weeks to achieve that, to get those ornaments. I think it should be a little bit easier, so that if it was used in that way, that you would be able to do it. Or if you just rank it up like normal, you would be able to select those slots easily. There's just so many different things that they could think of, but I really hope that they consider that many people are going to be wanting a little bit more robust ranking system and tree in terms of how they select how their armor is going to function for them in future PvE and PvP activities.
I definitely agree with this. This is something that should be implemented somehow. One of the main things I've always liked about Destiny was being able to personalize your character. And visually speaking, I think some of the armors that from like year 1 and year 2 that were actual blues or even some of the greens actually look a lot cooler than some of the legendaries that are currently available. I think that being limited by the current available raid gear or the current Iron Banner gear or something like that is like really limiting how people want to express themselves. I mean, I'm sure it's happened to everybody in a Crucible match. You'll see another member on your team wearing the exact same armor, and sometimes you don't know which one is you, except for the gun. And so I think that offering more possibilities to not only visually change your character, but also being able to re-roll to get what you consider to be your god role, I think is something that should be looked into. Like RedWingGirl says, and I totally agree, it shouldn't be that easy to achieve. There should be some kind of grind to it also. But I think that we do deserve the ability to make ourselves the legend that they promised us, because so far we're doing a good job on becoming legend, but we're always like really stuck to the current DLC. Like I remember back in Crota, everybody was running around with Crota gear, and then we were going into the Taken King gear, everybody was running with Taken gear. Like it would be nice to go back to the VOG gear or mix it up however you wish. I mean, to express yourself in your way with the abilities that you want to play. And as Optimus already said, everybody has their own play style, so we should all be able to choose how we wear and what we wear.
So I know a lot of feedback you do generally get out of the community on those sorts of things, that these players can achieve high tier gear and they don't have to grind, yada yada. We do get that a lot in the community. So if they're going to tie something like a rank up system on your gear, perhaps they could have 2 ascendant slots like they did back in year 1 to ascend your gear to 30, level 30 it was, sorry. Perhaps they could bring back a commendation that we used to get from ranking up our Vanguard or Crucible, and we could use those commendations even to open up our gear, open up that next skill tree on our gear so we have more viable options. If that's what they want, if they need RNG placed into the game or a grind, so to speak, let it be that way. Because as it is, when you start to rank up your factions, who really does drop armor now once you have those sets out of those faction packages? Everyone is looking for those rolls on weapons. That's how they work. So if we could go back maybe even to commendations, you rank up, you get your little commendation out from the quartermaster, you can implement that on one of your sets of gears and it opens up all that tree. Perhaps that's one way to go.
That's a really good idea. I totally support that idea.
Well, here's the thing. In year 2, or D2, I guess there's discussion that they're going to reset or restart everyone. So that's an opportunity to expand on some of the ideas that we're talking about. But I would much prefer that going forward, that it isn't going to be like a very limited type of beginning to grind for armor again. I mean, the downside now is that I have a lot of sets. Some of them are useful, some of them I just like to wear, but I don't have any room for it. So if either they're going to have to give us massive more amount of vault space if they let us keep what we have, or they're going to have to, have kiosks like they've started to do, where we can actually get this vanilla armor and start building our own gear based on, RNG or grinding or whatever. But, I don't know how we're going to go into D2 doing the same thing that we're doing now, because it just kind of gets old. They have to be a little bit more creative, I think, in D2 with armor.
I think there should also be the ability to choose different types of the same armor, like some of the greens and the blues. I think there should be like a one also available as legendary. Likewise, you should have like the same builds, but available in all different ranges.
Well, I know that RedWingGirl and I were playing, I guess 2 weeks ago, week and a half, 2 weeks ago, and I had a blue helmet drop, I believe in PvP, and I wore it for about a week and a half before I finally got the Queen's helmet to drop, didn't I, RedWingGirl?
Yeah.
And it's exactly what you said. Some of the best looking gear in this game is blue gear, and it just never gets seen. They do all this work with the art design and whatnot, and it all goes to waste. Why not be able to have that gear brought up to legendary somehow or equivalents? Pirate, what was your thoughts on this subject?
It was exactly what you said at the end there, is being able to make it a legendary. That would be neat.
Yeah, it's something that's been brought up on the forums periodically since the launch of this game, and it's something that I think they really should look into for Destiny 2 as they're developing it. The ability to have blue gear be able to be ascended to legendary status, I think would really, really open up what people could do with building different looking sets in this game. I think it would be pretty terrific.
Definitely agree with that. Once again, this is the reason why we bring up these topics, is there's so much time, well, there could be so much time now between now and then, and the era we're in now is the perfect time to test. There's so many Guardians that have played for 3 years. There's new Guardians, and that feedback now before then is more important than ever. So I see no reason why there shouldn't be that availability through armor sets. I know for one, especially with the rise of Iron Gear, I put ornaments into quite a few pieces that I don't even have my tier 12 build that I want. There's specific perks that I can't have, but yet I still can't buy them out of the book and get a different role. I'm stuck with what I got out of that book. And there's things that you would think a company like Destiny have foresight on, like Bungie, have foresight on. They've done, they've seen these things for a couple of years, and they're the little things that unfortunately let them down. They still do some beautiful things, but they're the little pieces that let the community down a bit. Like, I put ornaments into things where I had to grind for some of them, and and people have spent money on them. Allow us to change our stats, to change our perks. Realistically, the armor should have a perk tree exactly the same as our subclass trees. No different, exactly the same. There should be unlimited amounts of different things you can change, because that's customization, and that's always comes back to the point of we want to look the way we want to look and feel especially after 3 years. And that's we're not demanding that in no means, but the game is a lot more funner when it's broken down. You can understand it more in that way. I think the subclass tree is brilliant, and I think it's something that they might need to start sticking on armor sets. And whether that is going from, your vanilla gear, you get to level 10, your ornament opens up on the side of that first tree, and it goes down to the next tier, and it turns into a blue, your rare, or your green, and every tier you get down, you can build that armor to legendary status, but you can still go back to those ornaments that are unlocked as you've leveled it up. and go, I liked that gear better, and I've still got all these trees open that I can pick and choose from.
Hopefully that is one of the things that they'll be changing in Destiny 2. I mean, I'm one of the, I guess, hopeful people that Destiny 2 is going to be completely revamped, and the system as we know it is no longer going to be. It's not going to be something totally different. I think a bit more MMO oriented than it is right now. I mean, I'm a beta player, and I still consider it to be playing the beta after 3 years to a point, because I do see Bungie reacting to a lot of our feedback. Sometimes a little haphazardly, they jump in and listen to the community and kind of take some decisions that maybe should have been thought of a little bit more. But I do see a lot of interaction with Bungie, and they're still listening to us at some point. I mean, just look at the changes that came in and the dawning. Some of that's come from the feedback from the forums. So I think that what we're going to be seeing in Destiny 2 should have something very similar to what you're talking about, because that is a totally new system, and I think very workable and achievable.
So going to what you were actually just speaking of, this is actually a topic that we want to discuss on this episode, and I'm glad that you brought that up. It is New Year's Day today. It's the start of another year of playing Destiny, and we'll see what this year brings. Obviously, we're going to have Destiny 2 at some point this year, be it July, September, whenever it drops. But I just wanted to get everyone's thoughts. As you know, we've all been playing this game now. We've seen the launch Destiny. We've seen the different iterations from the Dark Below, House of Wolves, Taken King, Rise of Iron. And, you know, Bungie has listened to a lot of our feedback. There have been a lot of changes to this game. And just want to get everyone's thoughts on what you have liked the most that has been put into or improved or changed in this game since the vanilla experience, what it was then to you, and what about it now has made it a better game through what they have done with our feedback.
Well, I'm just going to say that the reduction of the grind that you had to do for guns was welcome. When we were playing the other day, we were doing the Supremacy Weekly, and I was playing with the Vex, and just looking at that perk tree on the Vex and what you had to do was just unbelievable amount of things that you had to upgrade. I'm so happy now that those things don't take long, because I've actually tried more guns just because I can rank them up so much quicker than I could before. So for me, that's a pretty big deal. I mean, they've made a lot of good things with buying materials, so you don't have to do a lot of grinding. That was really great. You know, there's like a lot of little things that they've changed, but the perk trees for me were a welcome change, because it really did kind of reduce the time that you spent on that, and you could use the guns a lot more easier, or faster, I should say, than you could in the previous time. But you know, they've made a lot of good life changes. You know, the whole grinding for materials to me was one of the biggest pains. You know, getting armor materials and getting weapon parts and all that stuff, that really did change a lot. And I also like the fact that they went to a mark system, a legendary mark system, rather than ranking up your Vanguard or your Crucible, which I thought was kind of hard to do. I never did get Crucible gear in the beginning because I never wore Crucible, or faction gear because I never wore Crucible, or I never played in the Crucible, so I never could get Crucible rep. But now it doesn't matter. You know, it works for both ends, so I thought that was kind of a benefit.
Are you telling me for real that you did not appreciate going and spending 2.5 hours gathering spin metal or whatever planet material to rank up your weapon, increase damage, and then doing it again 6 more times? That wasn't a good time?
That was horrible. I hated it.
On the note of using weapons faster, it would be neat if there's actually a way to, rank up your armor a little faster as well, because I know sometimes that does take a while, unless you want to throw in like 50 motes of light. I don't think anybody likes doing that unless you have plenty of motes.
And what about you, Pirate? What from day one till now, what has been the best improvements they've done listening to our feedback, in your opinion?
Well, nostalgic reasons, I still think Vaulted Glass is, well, the best raid. But moving on to the future, King's Fall brought back mechanics, and then Wrath of the Machine brought mechanics as well, pretty intricate mechanics that actually reminded me of Vaulted Glass. The weapons were good. Most of the weapons were all good, and I loved using them. I'm still wondering what they're going to do about the balance, because there's going to be a balance update coming up. I don't know how they'd handle it, and I hope they tread carefully.
What about you, Souls?
I think that there have been a lot of really good quality of life changes. You know, the improved UI, like you said, reduction of the grind. I think one thing that to me doesn't get recognized, I think a lot, is the ways in which we can make our characters unique and make them our own through all the various armor sets. And I think they've really listened there. With year one of this game, everyone looked alike. You know, everyone was wearing, you know, the same raid gear or the same faction gear. You know, now you have the Forge sets, the Iron Banner sets, everything that's in this game now. It's really cool, the degree into which we can go and we can try to put together our characters. Now, the RNG that is behind that gear, and that's something that Cosmo weighed in on the forums this week and said they'd be looking into, has been kind of sketchy. So hopefully that's something that gets fixed, because I know there's been a lot of issues with the Queens and Icebreaker and whatnot not dropping for people and getting double drops and stuff. But yeah, I think that what they've done with allowing us to have so many different cool looks and things that we can try to get has been really cool.
For one, I am a fan of the grind, though maybe not in excess. I think it's a really cool feeling I get when I finally get that piece of armor that I've been wanting for the past few months. I mean, it's been many a time that I'll get that exotic that I've wanted, and I'll call out to my wife, "Hey, honey, look at this," and she just looks at it and shrugs at the screen. So what? I was like, you don't understand what I had to go through to get that. That's like, you know, the feeling I get when it finally drops is like, yes! And so actually feeling like, you know, you've earned it is one of those things. But like RedWing says, too much grind really just loses it. When you finally have it, it's like, oh man, you know, that really took me a really long time. Like for instance, the exotic swords. I mean, spending 2 to 5 hours looking for the exotic material is just mind-blowing. I mean, people just drop out. They want to go do something else instead.
I'd have to agree with that there. I actually think I've enjoyed every year that I've been in the game, and I mean, I've never really felt like I've needed a break. It's just things that I've cycled through. So I began in PvE, and then I found my way in PvP. But I think that one of the best feelings ever in Destiny was always being able to acquire something that was worth the grind. And I think that's why you do tend to see quite a few posts now about make exotics great again, etc. Because that feeling was great. It was a great feeling. I think it has decreased a little bit now, accessibility. Like they've definitely made this game a bit more mainstream now, so it's much more watered down for people, like a casual player, so to speak. And that's not a problem. But I think things like the Black Spindle, which I probably regard as probably it was my greatest feeling, the greatest achievement in Destiny, because I went in there with my original fire team that we built. So it was 3 people going in there, and it was hard. That was hard. But the reward at the end of that, being that type of exotic, was great. But I think the way legendaries are sought now, and especially weapons, is very, very well put together now. So, you know, there's a lot of opportunity for players to find so to speak, god roll weapons or unique weapons that they feel like can be counterparts against those exotic feeling type archetypes. But that's been the biggest improvement for me, and I just think the way they've listened over the last couple of months especially, I think I can see big things happening, so I'm happy with that.
For me, one of the best things so far this year, at least, it's really not something that Bungie did, something that happened to me completely randomly, is that I finally joined a clan that is actually a clan, right? There's good teamwork, right? And I'd like to give a big shout out to my clan, especially Josh, the leader of the Hoboken Celestial Knights. I was about to quit Destiny. I played year 1 and the vast majority of year 2 by myself, which was kind of weird being in a massive multiplayer and kind of being on my own. And they saved Destiny for me, and that they taught me all the raids, they helped me with a lot of the stuff, and that just made Destiny so much more better. And I think that is one of the main things about Destiny, is that people come together. Like, you can see it on the forums. You see a lot of good people coming together. There's a lot of things you have to brush through on the forums, but likewise on the game, like, you meet a lot of really neat people in the Crucible, and you get together and you start having friends from across the world, like you guys. I just randomly met Souls one day, and here we are. I think that's one of the big things about Destiny, is that they've been able to create a really strong community. I mean, every community has their bad apples, but I think this one is actually moving forward and coming together as they should be, and helping create the universe that they feel is the best for them.
I think that's really awesome that you brought that up, because just listening to you say that, it just really echoes the experience that I've had with Destiny, playing solo through the first year and a half of this game, and then through Destiny. It is such it again. People want to talk about everything this game is, but that's another thing that just really doesn't get enough credit, is its ability to bring people together and the social experience that it creates. And, through the forums, through this podcast, through the game, the friends that, I've made, the experiences that we have shared together, playing as a solo player in year 1 and then halfway through year 2, and then I met RedWingGirl, and it completely changed how I experienced the game, going from solo time and strikes and PvP in the Crucible to her teaching me King's Fall and how to raid and the mechanics, and going and the adventures that we went on with our friends, through the strike playlists in fire teams, through the sword quest grinding. It's really incredible, a really incredible thing, the social aspect of this game and how it can bring people together. And it's just really cool. I'm really glad you brought that up.
I met RedWingGirl, I think it was about a year and a half ago, briefly on the forums. We were, I was having a problem with this guy who was being rather sexist, and suddenly RedWingGirl appeared out of nowhere, and she also started trying to explain to him that it was not, it's not acceptable for him to be making that kind of remark. And we briefly chatted after that, but I think there and then it showed me that this community has very strong leaders, and I think that's one of the things that we need a little bit more on the forums in order to control, because there's a lot of energy on the forums, but it's not properly directed. I think that this what we're doing right now is one of the things that's going to help us redirect that energy to make it more constructive, because right now it seems a bit more destructive than actually constructive.
And it's a fine line on the forums. We've discussed it in the past. It's Bungie.net, one of the things about it is that there's a lot more freedom, and with that freedom will be abuse. But would it be better to be more like Reddit, where everything is really heavily moderated, heavily censored? There's a lot of stuff that you're just not allowed to post about, even, hot button issues, trending topics. They're just, once it's been posted on, it's off limits. So, but beyond what reputation the forums and BNet do have, I think there is a really strong community there, and I don't think it gets enough credit. And I think I think one of the most social aspects of this game exists on Bungie.net, and I don't think Bungie even play that up enough, and that's something that with Destiny 2 they should build upon and make BNet even more social. But another thing I wanted to touch on, and I believe it was Optimus, correct me if I'm wrong, you mentioned making the exotics great again?
Correct, mate, yeah, yep. Okay.
Yeah, there was a post on the forums, actually, from Destroyer34568, and I just wanted to share this, because this is when I was reading yesterday, and they said exotics should be better than their legendary counterparts at least, so I just want to get your guys' thoughts on this. And their post was, exotics need to feel exotic. In year 1, exotics were amazing, but many were overpowered at one time, such as Thorn, Vex, and Suros. Now most exotics will almost never outperform their legendary counterparts. Only ones that will be better are the exotic swords, but those are heavies and only appear once per round in PvP anyways. All the exotic hand cannons, besides maybe the last sword at close range, are vastly outclassed by Ice Luna and Palindrome. Same for pulses. Clever Dragon and Hawksaw will always outperform Red Death and Bad Juju. There needs to be buffs made to many exotics in order to give them a slight edge over their legendary counterparts. Maybe not as much as year 1, but enough to make them worth using over a legendary. So again, that was from Destroyer34568 on the forums. So just thoughts on that.
For one, I think it is a very fine line between some of those weapons. I mean, to have a perk, in particular like Red Death, for instance, to have a perk that replenishes your health, and to have that, that time to kill ratio bumped up, it's a very fine line to jump between, because people will always jump up and down saying things are OP in this game. And that is forever going to happen. I, for one, think I always thought that Thorn, I loved Thorn. I thought it was a great weapon, a great idea, had great visuals, beautiful looking weapon, and it was very unique. But I always thought that the better way to deal with Thorn was to have a luck in the chamber type poison. So it was an RNG chance of getting a poison bullet, rather than consistently getting those taps. That's where people got frustrated with. And I mean, did anyone ever complain about luck in the chamber? I don't think I've heard that. So they're the things Bungie got to sit back and look at, and just... It's so hard with the exotics, because they can have some great perks. Red Death, Thorn has a great perk on it. The last word, when it was at its full power, was quite powerful, but they're going to have to take those risks to have weapons like that in the game, and find a way of making legendaries be able to compete with those ones. Not sure how they're going to do that. Perhaps you guys could weigh in on that.
Well, the one gun that I thought that was going to take off is the Kava stuff, because it had so many different ways that you could set that weapon up, whether it be pulse, auto, or scout, and I never see anybody use that gun. And I just, we're talking about having guns with different type of perks on it, or armor, and I'm just really surprised that gun hasn't really taken off.
I think I'm a victim of that too. I think one of the reasons that the Kavastov isn't being used is peer pressure. I think one time when I was running with some of my clanmates, I equipped it, and suddenly they start going, "What? You're using a Kavastov? That's crap." And I felt pressured into not using it, so I did. I switched to something else. And then I realized, why should I even care what they think, right? So I've heard of other people also getting hate mail for using whatever weapon or Thorn. And even back in year 1, I think the Thorn, everybody was calling it a cancer and all that. So I think a lot has to do with with peer pressure. And I do agree with what Optimus says. I think that exotics should feel exotic. They should still retain that feeling of specialness without being OP. And that is really hard. I definitely agree with that. I mean, Destiny was never meant to be a balanced game. The whole point of Destiny is to be unbalanced. Like, that's why you got all the different subclasses. But it's also really hard to not have something too OP compared to the others, or else everyone would just be running around with exotics. So yeah, that's a really, really hard task that Bungie has ahead of them, to make exotics feel that way and yet not make them overly powerful.
All right. Well, I guess what I'll just touch upon is like we have the Xylo. Why don't we have another exotic that has Void or Solar? Not counting Vex, since it's currently non-upgradable. That would be nice to have. I don't know weapons, if we'd use a current weapon or a new weapon. I'm thinking Void Hardlight. Solar could be... I can't think of anything right now if anybody has anything for Solar.
I just don't think that it's going to happen. Luke Smith is, adamantly against the Solar Arc and Void Burns on primaries, and so he does not want us on his lawn about that picketing. So I don't know how Xylo happened and got into the game, but I just don't think that there's going to be any more beyond that.
It was just a nice thought. Just thought I'd put it out there.
Yeah, no, it's a lot of people would like to have the elemental burns back. I mean, it did. There's no arguing the level of fun it added to the game, particularly on nightfalls with burns and going in, and it made you feel powerful, and it made you feel like you were really unleashing hell on the minions of darkness. And I think that is something that is missing with the removal of elemental primaries.
I would only support an elemental primary if we could actually toggle it back to whatever you want to use, Arc, Void, or Solar. I mean, as it is now, I have 3 snipers on all 3 characters. I have a Solar, a Void, and an Arc. That's 3 weapons that I have to grind for, or buy, depending on what, just to have on 3 different characters. So I have 9 sniper rifles of each thing on each character, so that I can use them for whatever I need to use it for in a strike, or whatever it is. And same thing with fusions and shotguns and sidearms. It's ridiculous amount of inventory that you don't really need. If we could just have 1 sniper on 1 character, with the perks that you want, that you could toggle back and forth with whichever, Void, Solar, or Arc. Same thing with primary. Xylo would be great if you could just toggle back to whichever one you want. And I don't understand the argument for or against it, in terms of where Bungie is for it and where the community is for it. As it is now, I don't want to have 3 different Fate Bringers or 3 different whatever. I just want to be able to use 1 gun, because I have like 9 favorites, and be able to go back and forth with every one of those guns and use any kind of, element that I want. And that's what makes this game cumbersome, because of the amount of inventory that you have to hold if you want to be able to have all of the perks. And that's, I hope, something that they change in D2.
But you have all that vault space that you have that you don't have to manage constantly, right?
No, I don't have any vault space. I'm deleting perfectly good guns because I just don't have room for them.
Yeah, I know. I get where you're coming from on that, and especially, seeing the amount of time that you're in the tower, just trying to see what you can keep and what you have to get rid of to be able to keep a new drop. So it kind of ties in again, to the armor reforging from Optimus earlier.
And the downside of that is that people will just settle on the meta, because that's the most frequent use of a certain gun. But, if you had time to find a favorite gun and spend time using it, so that you can get better with it, you would want to have more variety. That's what I do. I don't really subscribe to the meta. I use all different types of weapons, and I just have different. It just depends on what I want to use in any given day. But if you don't have a chance, to use any different kind of gun because you have nowhere to store it, then I don't understand why they wouldn't want you to be able to do a lot more with those individual weapons. If they want to put elements on them, I could reduce my inventory by 2/3 if they would allow us to be able to toggle back and forth on elements.
I think that something similar to what they have on the Warlock fusion gun. Correct me if the name is wrong. It's called Susano in Spanish. That its burn will vary depending on the abilities that you're using. So you can switch easily between any of the three, depending on that. And I think it's the only gun that actually has that ability. Correct me if I'm wrong. I think if they
the Murmur.
That to other. No, the one you get from the weapon.
Yeah, the Susanoo, the Warlock
Yeah.
Amalan. Yeah, the
Yeah, I know
Murmur
what
you
you're
could
talking
toggle.
about.
Yeah.
That's right. I'm sorry. Remember, also you could also toggle. That's right. Accurate.
I definitely think if that was one way that they could improve the feel of at least an exotic primary, with perhaps either a toggle option for burns, or the subclass node that opens up the burn. I think that could be an improvement. But then once again, you're gonna get that feedback from the PvP crowd. This weapon isn't viable in PvP. Make it good again, make it feel good again, and we're quick to patronise, but then quick to forget what we were saying about those weapons. Like everyone hated Thorn. Unless you were using it and feeling good about using it, everyone hated that era. And I think that is the issue. I think that at times Bungie over-listens to those things and forgets about the impact it will have in PvE, and then the impact later on when people have forgotten about that era go, this weapon's not even worth using, i.e., once again, going back to Thorn, this Year 3, is it worth using, even with ornaments? Some people can use it very, very well, but other people get frustrated because it doesn't suit their playstyle where they want to 3-tap someone and run away, you know what I mean? So time to kill, I think, is a big issue in the game currently with weapons like Clever Dragon, those sort of archetypes that can put a player down quickly. And I think that's the struggle they find between exotics as well, is that they can't compete. And are they truly are they losing touch of the fact that the weapon still feels exotic regardless? I think so. But like once again, I said there's a fine line, isn't there?
Well, I think this is coming together on a couple levels here. And Pirate, I believe you were talking about feeling peer pressure to not use the Kavasov, or was that you, Cypher?
That was me. Yeah, that was me.
Okay, you were saying you felt that you felt peer pressure to not use it, and RedWingGirl, you were talking about how you like to cycle through and use different weapons, and we'll go through a session of PvP and you'll try out 5 different primaries throughout, but the fact that the lack of space options kind of keep people from being able to maybe try out the things that they would want to or be more adventurous. I think that an Optimus, time to kill, which I was discussing that with someone on the forums earlier today in regards to mid-impact scout rifles, that they didn't think were good, and I disagree, but one of the things they brought up was time to kill. And time to kill is such a, there is a difference in weapons, but it's hundredths of a second, and the thing that sets weapons apart should be, the other advantages. But to my point of the peer pressure with the Kavastov, there's a lot of posts this week, and there have been for a while, but particularly in the last week, on auto rifles and how they're just unusable in PvP. And when we were running, what was it? We were running one of the bounties the other day. Was it the weekly bounty we were doing, RedWingGirl?
Yeah, Queens. Oh,
Okay.
yeah, the Supremacy.
Okay, yeah. We were doing the Supremacy weekly bounty. And so we all decided to run year one weapons just for fun. And RedWingGirl and another player on our fire team brought out their Vex. We had players using Pocket Infinity, and I got out my Up for Anything Vanguard auto rifle, and I hadn't used an auto rifle in PvP in forever, and I was getting the most kills with a primary that I've gotten in months to, if not a year, with it. And then we played again the next day, and I brought out Abyss Defiant, and the same thing, just getting kills with it. I mean, I wasn't even switching to my fusion rifle at all throughout the match. I was using my primary the entire match. And, you know, I think that a lot of this game is perception and peer pressure and word of mouth of what's the meta and what you should use. And I think a lot of it gets overplayed, and I don't think people try out things enough on their own and formulate their own opinions on what works for them and what actually can compete in this game, for whatever reasons.
I 100% agree with that, and I will always revert back to, I was always PvE for probably the first 8 months cycle of Destiny until it dried up and I went into the PvP scene. And the one thing I will always remember is following, because I went onto YouTube to find out a bit about weapons and things like that, and the one guy that I always find that explained playstyle the best was a YouTuber called True Vanguard, and he always talks about perception of what's good and what's not, and it's all playstyle, you know. Like, I've had some fun with some weapons that people would have never used in Crucible. I know I ran Zulu's Bane from King's Fall for quite some time, and I think it was an absolute beast of a weapon, and people would laugh at you. I've ran Anguish as well. I thought that was a great auto rifle. You know, it is. A lot of it is how you play, and particularly auto rifles. They can be very viable if you know how to strafe and use your vertical and horizontal spaces, how to work grenades and pinch people. They're the things that people need to realise about this game, is that there's more to just shooting in a straight line and killing someone. And that's where the complaints come from. Oh, why can't I just shoot in a straight line and kill that person? He 3-tapped me before I even got 4 shots out of my scout rifle, or this or that. You know, that is always going to be the linchpin in where the weapon tuning goes, is feedback based on, like you said, Souls, is that peer pressure, where that peer pressure comes from. The community, well, not always in the community, outside sometimes the streamers do the same thing, but hopefully we can see a change in that.
I think the whole point of having so many weapons is that we should all be able to choose what we want to play with, no matter what. I mean, I think one of my favorite comebacks I ever saw was one guy was being harassed for, I think, using Thorn. He says, "Oh, that's a gun that requires no skills." My friend comes by and says, "Yeah, I don't need skills to kill you." I thought that was a great comeback. But the reality is that anybody should be able to play with whatever they want, and I think that these self-created metas that sometimes the community even comes up with, like I remember back in the day when the Mida was the gun to go to for PvP, and I even bought into that to myself, and then I realized why I think my Tlaloc is just as much fun, if not even more. I mean, I think that's the whole point about Destiny. We need to stop going with the flow and just being ourselves, becoming our legend like we were told to do from the very beginning.
Well, I do think auto rifles need more bullets in the chamber. I would use an auto rifle if the time to kill was even with the grasp or some of the other higher, faster pulse rifles. They just don't, there's not enough for such a close range. It's medium to close sort of gun. There's not enough stability and ammo in the gun, I think, for them to be truly competitive with some of the other, like the Mida or the Grasp or the Clever Dragon.
And I think that's a good point as well. And I think that going back to what you were talking about, Optimus, and what I was discussing with someone on the forums earlier about the scout rifles, yeah, time to kill exists, but as you were just saying, RedWingGirl, the magazine size on the auto rifles, that should be where it balances out. An auto rifle is supposed to be a spray and pray weapon, and I think that's something that with up for anything using it, it's got 38 rounds in the magazine, so I don't have to be super accurate. It doesn't have to be the hardest hitting weapon. I just have to strafe, make them miss, use cover, and when they're reloading, I'm still shooting and I'm getting kills, and that's the advantage of it. I agree 100% that the high impact, low rate of fire auto rifles do need to be brought up on the magazine size, and I believe that is the fix there, because there is no sustained fire. And so, but yeah, the balancing act doesn't always need to be time to kill.
I think that in saying that too, with auto rifles, there's nothing more frustrating than trying to work yourself up some kills, but you can never seem to get multiples with auto rifles, because it's nearly a kill per reload at times. Because if you try, without the use of a grenade that gives a bit more damage, it is a struggle to get through a magazine with 2 kills. You always find yourself getting it empty and having to reload halfway through a gunfight on the second kill. That's my opinion, but that's my play style. I tend to always hit that area where, okay, second kill, I'm getting pinched on an opponent, comes in after my first kill, and I just can't seem to get enough bullets out of the magazine, and I'll die every time.
Yeah, I definitely second that. I think that auto rifles do need to have a bit more attention given to them. I know that the mid-range ones were slightly buffed a couple months ago, but I think that this proposal is a way forward. Just I don't know, a few more rounds to each magazine could make that difference that both Optimus and Souls are talking about.
So also on the subject of PvP, Cyberactive, you wanted to discuss a little the scoring system in Destiny.
Yeah, one of my pet peeves I've always had in Crucible, and nowadays also with the new strike scoring system, has been the assist points. I mean, it's happened to everybody, be it intentionally or by accident, that you damage a guy down to an inch of his life, and then comes along somebody else and he just ends him, and he takes the 100 and something points for the kill, and you only get 50 for your struggle, for your efforts. So at one point I was proposing that the assist point should be proportional to the damage inflicted. Like if you only inflicted very little, then you get very little points. I still consider that the one who actually gets the kill gets his kill points, definitely. And I think I proposed back then that a base score of 25 points for the kill, plus, and the other 75 to be spread out according to the percentage-wise of damage that was inflicted by you and the other person. I mean, if you did the 100% of the damage, then you get all 100 points. If you did only half of it, then you get your 25 points for the kill, plus the 50% of the 75 added to you. Same thing goes in the strike system. I mean, like you're hitting this yellow bar really hard. You bring him down. You're reloading, and then comes along your coworker, and he just smashes him with his last bullet, and he gets 1,000 points, and you sit there going, "Wow, really?" So I think that proportional assist points should be looked into, especially now that this has become an issue with the strikes. And this is something it's not new. I've seen it in other games. I can't think of one off the top of my head, but I do remember one point just getting 4 points for my for the little damage I was able to give the other guy.
Do any of you get into the PvE scoring systems? Does anyone really dig into that? Besides, it throws up the team score. Does anyone go to the individual scores at all post PvE strike playlist?
Oh, I definitely do. I check it every day. I actually learned that from you guys, from your, I think, 2 episodes ago, that was mentioned at some point that in the second tab over, I think it's on your left or your right bumper, I forget which, you can actually see the individual scores. And I think that's a neat part. It doesn't take away from the team spirit, which is ultimately the whole point of the strike scoring system. But it's also it's nice to be able to compare yourself, see how well you did. Like the other day, I ended up doing Omnigoal by myself up until the very last, and I had over 60,000 points, and the other 2 guys who joined up, they had between 4,000 and 7,000 points.
I definitely agree with that. I think that's a great idea. I never even crossed my mind, to be honest, but I think it's a very valid point, and a lot of people do go into PvP and don't understand that there's going to be players that push a lot harder than what they do, so there are always going to be increments in time where you're going to feel like you've done the most work but achieved nothing out of it. And I think that's the point of this, is that is a real confidence booster for a player, especially if they do aspire to get a little bit better at PvP or even with the strike scoring system, is that players do need to know and feel like they have achieved, and that is the biggest thing that Destiny does do for players. I think that is something that will improve it quite a lot.
I mean, there's nothing I hate more than getting 5 unsung hero medals in a match, like just randomly killing 2 or 3 guys, but I've got like over 25 assists or something like that. It's sometimes irritating.
So one of the things that we have not discussed a lot on the Destiny Truthcast, but it's always an interesting topic, is lore in this game. And Pirate, you wanted to talk a little Destiny lore with us today.
Yes, and I'll try to keep it engaging because I'll see what you guys think. The first thing I want to talk about is, since we had the new strikes like the Nexus and Omnigoal, do you think that tells us that we might have the revisit of the Vaulted Glass and Crota's End?
Well, RedWingGirl posted on the forums about that as soon as she ran the Omnigoal strike the first. Was it Omnigoal? No, I'm sorry. That was the Nexus strike the first time.
Nexus
that she believed that it was a precursor to them bringing back Vault of Glass.
Yeah, I actually commented on about that one, and I was trying to the way they put it out is like maybe because of for the Taken version. What I said was the Taken took over, and the Vex, of course, the Vex wasn't approving of that, so they decided to allow the Aegis relic to fall through as well for us, because the Vex want to be part of the universe, not the Taken. And also the Crota's End, I don't know how that would be brought back. I mean, Omnigoal was just simply, she undone her death, so that only tells us that she has their own world, another world. And whether she could still accomplish bringing back Crota, or maybe that whole ritual they were doing whenever we were taking his essence was in some form bringing him back. Maybe making him Taken, maybe having a Taken version of Crota's End. I still think that'd be neat. What do you guys think about those?
Oh my god, a Taken Crota would probably put the nail in the coffin for me. Oh my god, Crota was just already a pain in the ass. And just having him be taken, oh no. I was excited for Nexus because, I mean, they were putting Vaulted Glass mechanics in that. And every time they tend to put mechanics in new content, it eventually leads to some kind of raid. And so my feeling was is this is where they were going. But I don't know what the lore is behind having taken in the Vault of Glass, for example. Would that be a conflict? I'm not really sure because I really don't know that much about the lore.
I think there was already a precursor to that previously when the Taken were going into the Vault of Glass, trying to steal it. Not the Taken, the Fallen. I think that this is I think you are correct that they are circling back to the Vault of Glass, which in a sense does make sense because it does that is where the conflicts of time is. It all circles back to it. I know most of the lore masters never really appreciated fan stories, but there's one that's really good out there that I posted at one point. Is the Daughters of Praedyth that actually played with that idea. If you guys ever get a chance, I'd recommend reading it. But lore-wise, I think
what's the breakdown on that story for us that haven't read it?
A team of 3 warlocks, because they're the master race, they try to go into the VOG and find Praedyth again, but they end up being thrown in time, first to the past, to the Golden Age, and then to the future after the Traveler has died and the Vex have taken over. And they end up creating a new timeline in which they practically removed all the timelines where the Guardians and the Travelers did not exist, and they ensured a proper future. But in doing so, they attracted the attention of something much more larger and much more sinister than anything we've ever seen in this game, that briefly glanced over to us and kind of smirked at what we were doing, thinking like, that's child's play, and then looked away. And so it's giving the idea that there's something much more bigger, much more darker out there than even Crota or any of the worm gods.
Well, they need to sort out the Traveler, because I need to know what that is.
I think there's also the Darkness themselves.
Well, to get back when I was like, for the Vault of Glass, you were talking about the Taken, like in the whole conflict with it always going back. Well, I back on that, I don't think we're done with the Vex, because why would they? They let us go into. We were what mission was it that we were called in by Praedyth? Paradox. That was a design by the Vex to get the Taken out of there. So, and like in the Nexus, the Vex and the Taken are still butting heads to see who will be the best, and we're still right in the middle of it as well with our gifts of light. So I do think the Vault of Glass will come back in some way, shape, or form. Crotazan, that's something different. I don't know how that would work, because we killed Crota in his throne world, and they can't. There has been in the Books of Sorrow. Those that have died in their throne world have been brought back under circumstances, and how Crota could be brought back either through that ritual or whatnot. I don't know how that would work. It'd be neat to have those two come back, because they were good raids. I think they were good raids, including Crota's End.
I do think there's a good chance that Crota will come back. I play Destiny in Spanish, and sometimes the translations are not 100% there. But I do remember distinctly Eris Morn saying that they were preparing him for the next world. And even though we've already killed him in his throne world, as has already been proven both by the sisters as well as Omnigul, they can come back. There is another way. And saying that, there's even a good chance that the Taken King can also come back in a sense. So there is a good chance, and I'm sorry about RedWingGirl, but I think there's a good chance that he will come back as a Taken or something similar to that.
I'd just like to quickly cut in on that. I think, I in particularly think the story in Destiny is really intriguing, and the grimoire behind it. But me personally, I loved Vault of Glass, and I absolutely loved Crota's Raid. I thought that was fantastic. But I'd hate to see them copy and paste, like they have done many times before, and have that implicate the story. That would disappoint me, I'd have to say. And I know a lot of fans are asking for those old raids to come back, but if it implicated on the story, and it's not something that they do very well with the raids, actually. They don't really implement a whole lot of story in-game for you to understand why we're even raiding at times. So I'm unsure. I'm on the bench on this one, I think.
I'd like to know, RedWingGirl, if they do bring back Crota, will I still be allowed to run the raid with you if I don't use my Galahorn?
Shoot the Oversoul.
Yep. I remember that.
Yep, you're going to have the new Galahorn. You'll have to have the new Galahorn and the Black Spindle, and that's it. If you don't have it, and then you have to have the Year 1 emblem too, otherwise you won't be allowed in LFG.
And the Dark Drinker.
That's right.
Well, we're all going to be screwed because we can't get the Year 2 Icebreaker because the 1% drop rate, so how are we going to cheese the heavy ammo for returned Crota's End?
There is no cheese for Crota that I'm aware of, but I remember.
The heavy ammo cheese?
Oh, well, that was different.
Wasn't that with Icebreaker, I thought? It required it? Or am I off on that?
Yeah, but it was...
I believe there was something. I just don't remember what the circumstances.
You had something about you had to empty out your primary, I think, and then I guess you had to do something with the Icebreaker, but I really can't remember now. It's been so long.
Yeah, it was, you'd have to empty out all your primary and heavy ammo and just get purely Icebreaker kills, and every single Icebreaker kill would drop a heavy ammo brick. I've definitely experienced that because it was one of the funnest things to solo Crota, so...
We'll see. I might be a noob, but I can cheese heavy ammo in Crota, so I've got that going for me.
Those were dark days. That was before heavy ammo since, and that's another thing that has improved in Destiny, that I don't go around panicking having hordes of heavy ammo because I'm always afraid Zur's not going to have them or something.
Speaking of Zur and things he has and doesn't have, and I know that there's a lot of hurt out there, but 3 of coins, guys, what up with that?
Well, they've already said it's a glitch and I guess someone said there's another like bigger heavy ammo synth or something that's been added. I haven't gone to Zur, and so it took up the place of where the 3 of coins were. I don't know if that's the case or not, but Bungie has addressed it. They said it's a glitch and that it will be resolved on the other side of the holidays. They've been off for Christmas and New Year's, so when they get back to the studio in force, they will fix that.
Yeah, I've heard a lot of it. Thankfully, I still had 180 of them, so I've been using them sparingly. But yeah, that's one of the day-to-day comments I get.
So it is to the point in the program where I would like to get everyone's favorite moments from the last 2 weeks playing Destiny over these holidays. So we'll start with the guests. Optimus, what have you enjoyed most the last week or two playing Destiny?
Well, not much because I have been on holiday on an island, so there's no availability here for me on Destiny, but I definitely did play quite a bit going into the Christmas break before I got here. And I think Sparrow Racing and the record book was quite a bit of fun. I think Sparrow Racing is very well balanced, hell of a lot of fun. Very rewarding too, I think they got that right. And the strike scoring for me is a bit of hit and miss. I think at times it feels like you're never progressing well enough in it, but I'm sure it's all in the test phase, that sort of stuff, so they'll get that right one day. But for me it's just, going into one more year, the end of a year on Destiny, and just knowing that the game's in good hands and it's going to move forward, and now that you do see Bungie listening to our feedback a lot more. I think that going ahead it'll be a lot of fun next year too, so I'm looking forward to that.
What about you, Pirate?
Finally reaching 400 about 2 weeks back.
Congratulations.
Also, thank you. And basically everything that the Dawning brought, the quality of life, the strike scoring, all that was a bit of fresh air. And then just recently I gathered up all the ghosts and Siva fragments for Rise of Iron. So yeah, that's all that's going good for me so far.
Yeah, the Siva fragments. That's something that will be, if there's a next Moments of Triumph, then I'll get around to that. What did you hit 400 doing? How did you get there?
What was it? I was trying to get a ghost at the end of Iron Banner. Maybe that was a little more than 2 weeks, but that's the only thing that catches my mind. I was trying to get a ghost, and then just did the strike. No, I did the raid, and just random group. Haven't played with this guy for a while, and they were at Axis Part 1, and that goes. I was like, please drop the ghost, and it did for once. And yep, 400.
Very nice. And what about you, Cyberactive?
Definitely the highlight was actually coming home before Christmas. Last year I didn't get to be here for Christmas, so that was like a really big plus. It's always nice to walk home, get in the house, and have my wife and daughter receive me. It was really cool jumping on Destiny and all my clanmates going, hey, you're here, right on, hey, you want to do the hard raid? We know you haven't done it, we'll help you through it. And we did it, and I messed up and all that good stuff, but my clanmates really put up with it. They were really patient. Got access done on hard mode. I'm like this close to finishing off my Rise of Iron. I don't know, just being home and being with my family and my friends, that for me is definitely the highlight of the season.
Yeah, I don't think it gets better than that. That's really awesome. RedWingGirl, what about you?
Well, I finally got the shoes for the Queen's Bounty on my Titan, so I'm really happy about that. All I need now is the chest piece. We talked about getting double class items or whatever, and I have my own theories on it, but I was so happy to get those boots. Oh my god, I've been trying to get those boots since we were able to get it. Yeah, I finally got them. Last week, they finally dropped for me. So I was very happy for that. So I didn't get anything on my Warlock or my Hunter yet that I don't already have, but for my Titan, I'm trying to get the set, the gold set and the Queen set for my Titan. Those are the two sets that I'm really trying to get the most. And those are the worst RNG for me for some reason, because I'm just not able to get the right pieces. But finally the legs dropped, and so that for me was a big deal. I was pretty happy about it.
Well, your Titan also got another drop in the last week as well.
Oh yeah, I finally got the hard class item for my Titan after I don't know how many raids. Finally dropped. I mean, oh my god. So I could finally get that stupid shader.
Yeah, we didn't think that was going to happen. So and it actually drops. We thought that it was only from phase 1, but it actually dropped from the bonus chest after phase 2. So that was really a surprise, because we thought that it was another week without it happening, and then you ended up getting it. So that was pretty cool. A pretty cool moment.
Yeah. Well, that and the ship. The ship is the other thing that never drops. I've never seen anyone get it, and it's generally in Vault of Glass, in Crota, and in Taken King. I mean, the ships were dropping like almost every other time you were doing it, and now for some reason the ship never drops. I don't get it.
Yeah, there's a lot of talk that's glitch. And actually, speaking of the raid, I want to back up and ask you, Cyberactive. You got home for the holidays, you got run through the hard mode. What were your thoughts on the hard mode, and did you do either of the challenge modes?
No, haven't done the challenge mode yet. I actually joined the hard raid the other night, just after Vosik, one of my clanmates, stepped out to so I could do it again. But yeah, that's hopefully that's what I'll be doing in the next few minutes, going up against Vosik. But I think it was really cool. I was really happy to even pull it off. Having a team that actually puts up with my mistakes after good 35 days of not playing. I think the mechanics in both Wrath of the Machine as well as the Taken King have been of my favorites, as well as the VOG. I really like the teamwork element. I think that's a very special part that you don't find very often in other games.
Yeah, 100%. And like I said, that's really cool that that you got to be there. Not only with your family for the holidays, with your clan, and to experience that. And it's just that social feature of this game. And RedWingGirl, I know that we had a lot of fun running Vosik the other day as well. I know that we love running that fight.
Is he the first boss or the second or the last one?
He's the first one. The check all the bombs.
I can't stand that
3,
level.
2, 1.
God, I hate that level so
phase.
much. Yeah, the challenge isn't the bad part. It's just the ads and the Siva and the close confined area that I don't like about it.
Yeah, and
the one that still gets me. I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
One that still gets me.
It's harder than the boss.
That is true. It's arguably probably the hardest part of the raid in some cases, though Axis Phase 2 does require a lot of coordination, but arguably Vosik Phase 2 is also pretty hard, especially in hard mode. The one that really gets me the most is the wall glitch. I mean, it doesn't matter how good you're doing, somebody rubs up against that wall and they die, they wipe. I mean, that for me is still irritating.
Well, I was going to say, I got a lot of appreciation for RedWingGirl running the left side on Vosik. I always do the center, and I ran the left side with her. And man, it's crazy the difference in difficulty in that room, in that fight, depending on where you are and where those ads are coming out. I was on my Warlock and able to self-res, thankfully, so got through it. But if I was on my Titan, I don't know that I would have gotten through that fight running on that left side.
Yeah, it's a pain in the ass. I hate it.
So, for my favorite moment for the last week to two playing Destiny, I would say it's probably what we were discussing earlier when we were doing the weekly Crucible for Supremacy. And it's funny because for the first, I don't know, maybe hour or two we were running it was probably the most miserable experience I've had in a long time playing Destiny. It just was not fun. I mean, it was fun being there with our friends and our fire team, and it's always amazing, PvPing with RedWingGirl. But I mean, I was doing horrible. I mean, could not get a kill, couldn't get anything done, and we were getting victories and whatnot, and I was getting carried by Redwing and the rest of the team. But then I don't even know what the impetus was for us switching to year one weapons. Was it you guys switching to Vex? Is that what made us do it, RedWingGirl?
Yeah. But, I mean, this just goes back to the whole SBMM, CBMM argument, which I'm not going to go into. But part of the frustration with that, especially in Supremacy, is stacked teams. And when we would spawn in, it would be like uneven teams, like 4 against 6 or 4 against 4 or whatever. And it kept doing that. That's what was making it frustrating. So we finally just gave up and said, let's just play with year one stuff.
Yeah, that and the lag. The lag was atrocious. But it was that, and like I said, I mean, I was doing really badly, but you said, you're going to bring out the Vex, and so I went to my vault, and I was like, well, I don't have the Vex, what can I get? So I brought out that Up for Anything, and to go from as miserable an experience as it was to how much fun we had over the next hour or 2 hours playing, is just staggering. And it wasn't just fun. We did well with it. And it was just a fucking blast. It was so much fun. And it's what this game can be and should be. And yeah, it was cool to go from how miserable it was to the amount of fun we had after that. That was definitely my favorite moment.
I think that's something that the community has forgotten too, that Year 1 weapons work equally as well as the current weapons right now. And as you just proven, it can be even more fun to do so, even just to, like a throwback to the old days. I think that that's something that Bungie should maybe look into, creating some sort of Year 1 theme, weekly or daily playlist of some sort. I think that'd be a really cool addition. Of course, that would have to figure out what to do with the newcomers, but I think that's a really cool thing.
Well, I would like to thank everyone for being on the program today. It's been a really great episode. Optimus, Pirate, and Cyberactive. Really appreciate all three of you joining us today. It's been cool talking to you all on the forums, and it's been really awesome to get to hear your voices here and get to know a little bit about you and hear your thoughts on the game. Thank you all for joining us here today.
It's good to meet you guys too, and Happy New Year to you and everybody who's listening.
Same. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year, guys. Yeah, fantastic to be here, and yeah, looking forward to the next year of Destiny, that's for sure.
And RedWingGirl, always amazing. It's always amazing having you here with us, and really appreciate you being here today and hearing your thoughts on the game. Another week in Destiny.
Sure. Can't wait to kick your ass on the 3rd.
Kick my ass on the 3rd. Okay, what's this all about?
SRL.
Oh, the private matches. So it's on?
Yep, no excuses now.
All right. Well, we'll find out on the 3rd, RedWingGirl. So I will get my Sparrow tuned up. I will take it to Amanda Holiday. I will have it in tip-top shape, and I will see you at the starting line.
All right.
I would like to thank everyone out there listening, everyone on the forums contributing there. Always look forward to your thoughts and comments on each episode. And if any of you would like to join a future episode of the Destiny Truthcast, just get in touch with us and let us know, because we'd love to have you on and hear your thoughts on the game. Thank you, everyone. Have a great night.
It's nice meeting you all. Happy New Year.